Hey, what's up, everybody? Chad Calek here. Before we get rolling with this episode of the In a Crowded Room podcast, I wanted to let you all know that our annual Halloween season special bundle deals are now available, which you can click the link in the description box below to check them out. What this is basically we go through our merch and we come up with all kinds of cool deals and pairings. And there's a lot of stuff that focuses specifically on the special podcast 10-episode series that we've been doing with American Ghost Hunter, Blood Red Sky, the forthcoming Fire in Disguise, Gilliland Ranch Investigations, and the Ghost Prophecies special podcast series. Now, if you haven't listened to these, it's pretty much the detailed step-by-step process through all of these investigations, and it's a lot of fun. Our subscriber list is growing by the day. People really enjoy these, and if you enjoy the podcast, I think you would love them, so check that out for sure. And also, there is the opportunity for one person to become a lifetime Vimeo on-demand subscriber, which will give you lifetime access to all 17 films that I currently have on Vimeo On Demand, plus lifetime access to every film I make for the rest of my life. Yes, you heard that correctly. We're offering this to one person. So once again, click the link below, check it out. I think there's something there for everyone. Having said that, let's get into this episode. Hey everybody, this is Chad Calek, and welcome back to the In a Crowded Room podcast for episode number 78, which is actually going to be a movie review. Yes, for my 20th anniversary, I took Laura out to see Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like most filmmakers that I know, I'm in agreement that Quentin is probably the best to ever do it. For a long time, I would have told you that my favorite director of all time is Paul Thomas Anderson. But PTA's last movie was so bad, it actually sent Daniel Day-Lewis into retirement. I'm not kidding. You should actually read the interview about that. Yeah, he went downhill. That's heartbreaking because my favorite movie of all time is Magnolia, which PTA directed. And his career somehow got lost. But anyways, back to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now, there's going to be some spoilers here. I'm not going to go through like every scene in the movie like people do and break everything down. This will be an overall review and some general thoughts, and I'll share a story with you at the end. But overall, I would say it's in the upper echelon of Quentin films. Now, this is his 9th film. Reportedly, he's only going to make 10. That would make his next film, obviously, his last film. But this is pretty much what I would say is his kind of love letter to the industry. And it's this story about this actor and his stuntman who, at one point, the actor was kind of a big deal, and now his career is kind of struggling. And he was a big screen movie star, and now he's kind of delegated to playing TV roles. And the first thing that's noticeable about this, and I know why Quentin did this, just because I live out here. And unless you live out here, you probably would never know what he was talking about or why he did this in the film. But almost every character in the movie that is in the film business has this kind of dumbass way about him. They all kind of come off like they're kind of slow and kind of childish. I mean, Brad Pitt's character, Leo DiCaprio's character, even Margot Robbie's character, like, you know, she plays Sharon Tate. They all kind of come off as these grown-up children. And that's really true. I've met so many actors, and I don't know what it is about actors. I mean, I think I do. I think it's a combination of things. One, they make their living, you know, pretty much pretending to be other people. And I think if you do that enough your entire life, you're going to kind of forget who you are. But when an actor is successful, well, and this is in any kind of business, I guess, when you're successful, you are surrounded by yes men. And it's to the extreme degree with actors, because the most successful actors make ridiculous money, like really heavy funds. You know, I mean, I think they said The Rock is now getting like 40 million a picture or 30 million, something crazy, you know, for a movie that he'll shoot in 3 to 4 months. I mean, that's, you know, really heavy cash, you know. But that's really true. Like, when you meet actors, they really have this kind of dodo birdishness about them. And I've met a ton of them, and not everyone, but a large percentage of them, you know, definitely have that way about them. What comes to mind specifically is there's this scene in the movie where Brad Pitt's character, who's a stuntman, gets hired to work on the film that Leo DiCaprio is working on. They didn't have a kind of stuntman role to hire, so they hired him to basically kind of just be somebody on set. And there must be a movie that's shooting with Bruce Lee nearby. So they had this actor play Bruce Lee, and Bruce Lee comes off as kind of a dumbass. And there's nothing in life to say that he was like that. This is obviously Tarantino taking a lot of creative license. Basically, Bruce Lee and Brad Pitt, who's like a stuntman, get into a fight where Bruce Lee's pretty much telling him that, you know, how deadly he is and how badass he is. And Brad Pitt's character goes toe-to-toe with him, and it's like the best out of 3, basically. Meaning they'll fight each other, and whoever, you know, puts the first guy down is the winner of that round, per se. And basically, Bruce Lee jumps up and kicks him and takes him down, kind of like the first round. And the second round, Brad Pitt just smashes him and throws him up against a car and dents in this car. And the third round kind of gets broken up before anything really happens. But the character of Bruce Lee, he just comes off as, like I said, very kind of dumb. And I don't know this, but my guess would be that Tarantino is probably, you know, a massive, massive fan of Bruce Lee, especially knowing that he's done Kill Bill, you know, 2 kung fu films. But often, you know, when you meet your heroes, especially in Hollywood, if you meet like actors that you like, or it's just very rare that they will actually live up to what you think. And a lot of times they come off as less than what you hoped for. And I think that was kind of what Tarantino was showing, is that he loves this Bruce Lee, and he built him up to be such a, you know, massive powerhouse of a human being and a martial artist and all this stuff. And in real life, he was much less than that. Not to say that he was much less than that in real life, because from everything I've heard, Bruce Lee was legitimately the real deal. And there's never been anyone like him. From my understanding, he was the Michael Jordan of martial arts, basically. Like, he stands alone. But I think he was just kind of using him to show that when you often meet, you know, like I said, your heroes, they're rarely do they live up to the pedestal that you put them on. And, you know, Hollywood in general is like that, especially the professional movie business. Actors tend to kind of morph into the roles that the executives want them to morph into. They want to be kind of childish. They want to be led by the hand. They don't want to have to think. They want yes men. They want to kind of just be 5 years old and whine like a bitch about everything. Like, and I'm not saying all actors, but a lot of them do. And it's so weird because studio executives absolutely hate actors. And actors absolutely hate studio executives. And behind each other's back, they're always just brutal to each other. Just brutal. But then when they'll get together, whether it's on set or at an awards ceremony or whatever, they act like they're the best of friends. But trust me, executives are brutal to talent, and talent is brutal to executives. And it is very high schoolish. And that's kind of the best way I could sum up all of the characters in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is it's all just very childish. Like all of these characters are just like little, grown up little kids, basically. Obviously, if you haven't heard, there's an underlying story the whole time going through the film, which is the, Tate LaBianca murders of the Manson family. Manson barely even shows up like in maybe one scene or two. And it's really about the girls and Tex that actually killed the Tate family. And, big spoiler here. At the end, Tarantino does what he did in Inglourious Bastards, where at the end of Inglourious Bastards, Hitler gets killed at this theater. And had he been killed there, then obviously the genocide that followed would have never happened. And in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, basically the Manson girls, the Manson family girls and Tex, they essentially get stopped in a really violent, graphic way, and they all get killed before they ever make it to, Sharon Tate's house, the killer, and all this stuff. So he takes, obviously a massive creative license that never happened, but he's been doing this for a while. I think he enjoys giving you the ending that we all hoped for, not the ending that happened. Just he changes history because it just, that's the history he wanted to see, and I think the public wanted to see. And I like that he does that. That's just such an original idea that he doesn't feel beholden to history at all. And he gives us the endings that we want instead of the endings as they occurred. But it kind of, begs the question, why would there be, if Hollywood is filled with kind of these goofy personality people that are kind of like grown-up kids, and like why is that? Why are there so many of those types of characters? And I want to be clear, not everyone's like that. There are, it's weird, Hollywood's probably 80-20. 20% of the people out here are truly geniuses and are truly incredible. They're amazing creative minds. They have the talent. They have the social ability. There are certainly executives that absolutely have their shit together and are incredible. But about 80% of the industry, I would say, just aren't that impressive. I mean, this is the industry that failing upwards is just commonplace, where just by pure nepotism alone can get you so far you wouldn't believe it. You could become a billionaire off of nepotism. It's all about, it's the friend game, it's just, who are you fucking, who are you related to? Forget your skill set. Who are you related to? Who are you having sex with? Who are you delivering drugs to? Like, it's like that on the highest of levels. But I think it has a lot to do with the fact that there's no blueprint, there's nothing. For example, if you want to be a doctor, you have to take so many courses to be a doctor. You have to go to medical school. You have to, there's this long, lengthy process before you can get in the door to actually be a doctor, right? Well, I'll tell you a story here. Omaha, Nebraska, before I moved to California, there's a friend of mine named Michael Callahan, and he was a great friend of mine, but he had one of his best friends was the actor Chris Klein, and I had met Chris through Mike and just kind of had become an acquaintance of his. Well, if you're not familiar with Chris Klein played Ostreicher in American Pie. He also played the jock in the MTV Films movie Election, and he went on to do a lot of other movies. But the story of as to how he became an actor is incredible. The director Alexander Payne, who has won the Academy Award for writing, and he's directed many incredible films, he actually got his budget from MTV to make Election. And they had not, cast the role yet of Paul Metzler. And that was the high school jock that was in Election that Chris ended up playing. Well, how Chris got that gig is he was actually just lifting weights at his high school. And Alexander Payne goes walking by, looks in the weight room, sees him, and says, man, he visually fits the part. Walks up and says, hey, do you want to be in a movie with Reese Witherspoon and Matthew Broderick? And And he was like, yeah, I'd love to. And he goes, well, cool, come down and read for it. So the next day he goes down, he, reads for it, and they say thank you. He leaves, doesn't hear anything back, ends up graduating, goes on to school at SMU. He's down in Texas at SMU, and he gets a phone call saying, yeah, you got the part. And he was like, wow, I had no idea this was still going on. I thought it was over and I didn't get it. And he didn't hear from anybody. I said, no, you got the part. So he comes, and the first movie he shoots is Election. Now, Election comes out, wins the Academy Award for Best Screenplay, massive, massive hit, and his first film ever, he has a leading role next to Reese Witherspoon and Matthew Broderick. I mean, just absolutely like lightning strikes. From there, his agent gets him this small role in this ensemble cast that nobody's ever heard of all these actors, a little film called American Pie that was made for $10 million and went on to gross, a couple $100 million. It was like, wow, like how lucky can you be to go from Election to American Pie? Well, at that point, his career was, on a skyrocket trajectory because a lot of the, industry agents saw him as kind of like a young Keanu Reeves. So he jumps directly from that to doing We Were Soldiers, in which he's co-starring with Mel Gibson, to this Farrelly Brothers film that he starred in, and then John McTiernan's Rollerball, which was a $130 million project that he was co-starring in with LL Cool J. So a studio pinned $130 million on this young actor and LL Cool J, okay? Well, as quickly as his star rose, in 1 year alone, the Farrelly Brothers film that he did was made for like $60 million in it, tanked, somewhere around there. And then Rollerball absolutely bombed and lost the studio over $100 million. So in a very short amount of time, he had lost the studio $100 million. Plus, right after he did We Were Soldiers, that's when Mel Gibson kind of had his anti-Semitic breakdown. So just as quickly as he went from being a nobody to making millions of dollars on these big projects, he was pretty much blackballed from any major studio films. And he found himself over in Paris acting on a stage, and then he went to New York, and I think he did some Broadway stuff for a minute. He got a few TV roles, did a couple, really cheap, low budget films that he did that no one even really knew about. But my point in all of this being is that, he had no armor for this. He never set out to be an actor. I mean, this started with a director saying, you look the part. Do you want to do this? Right? And then the next thing you know, it's from that film on to American Pie. I mean, he had no idea what he was doing. And it just went. Now, I only bring this up because what other professions in the world can you be just lifting weights or mowing a lawn, and someone walks by, sees you, and regardless if you have any training, anything else whatsoever, within a couple of years, you could be making, $10 million a film. I mean, it's just, there's no other industry like this. And you don't need anything to, quote, make it other than to just be a character. It doesn't require a degree. It doesn't require, any kind of specialty per se. Like now again, the best in the world to do it, the Daniel Day-Lewises and the Brad Pitts and the DiCaprios. I mean, these guys obviously have taken the craft very seriously, and it's something that they've been able to make this long-lasting career out of. But there are so many stories where people with absolutely no training and no ability beyond natural God-given ability can make it in this industry. And this is industry-wide. I mean, David Geffen, you probably heard the name. I mean, this is one of the biggest industry execs ever. I mean, David Geffen had absolutely zero training in anything, just knew he wanted to be in the entertainment business, and started out in the mailroom, in which in order to move up the ladder at the record company that he worked at, he basically falsified, his college degree and got a position as an executive by basically lying about who he was and where he went to school at, and up the ladder he went. Now, he went on to become one of the most powerful, most wealthy, influential not only producers, but individuals in the United States. And it started with nothing more than ambition. No training, no skill, no education, no anything, just pure ambition as to how to make a living in this business and how to make things big and how to promote things properly. And he just had a knack for it. But there was just nothing, there's no blueprint. The only thing that, you have to know is that if you really want to make it in this business, you just need staying power. You got to stay here a long time and believe in yourself and wait for those opportunities to come and put yourself in between the opportunity and where it's going. That's what my old man just said to me, and I found that to be absolutely true. But because, there's so many positions in this industry that are filled by people that have never had any kind of formal education or anything in the industry or any kind of, or not even that you have to have a college degree, but even shadowing somebody who knows what they're doing in this industry and learning, the most of this industry is not from people who have had, this disciplined, educational process where they can learn the game. It's through, the guys that just kind of fall into it through nepotism and friendship and just because there's money there. And like I said, a lot of the actors, it's that way too. So you have an industry just kind of filled with people that really aren't professionals. They're just not. And that's why you kind of get this, this do-de-do, kind of vibe amongst talent. And that's what Tarantino is really showing in this film, is that all these talented people that do have talent, nonetheless, and charisma, but they're not all that bright, They're all like making tons of money and traveling the world and living these crazy lives, but they're just kind of, like I said, big grown-up children because no one ever made them grow up, And they found themselves in a business that rewarded them for kind of being that, for being a character. Because what is an actor rewarded for? For not being himself. For playing somebody else really well. And then for being a character in general. For having charisma. And, there's a lot of people that were just a kid working out on a bench. Just like, great example, Johnny Depp. He came out here with his band to try to make it. His band. He was pumping gas. His agent, an agent pulled up. He started pumping gas for his agent. This agent said, hey, you ever been in movies? Nope. He signs with this agent right away. The next thing you know, he's in Nightmare on Elm Street. And eventually the next film was 21 Jump Street. And, the rest is history. So there's no, like I said, there's no formal training there. I mean, he was a kid that is suddenly thrown into a, quote, professional business with millions of dollars and a bunch of yes men, a bunch of people that don't really want him to grow up. So they don't. It's the thing about this business that can drive you crazy, because I have a very love-hate relationship with Hollywood. 95% of it I hate. I mean, honestly. But the 5% I love, I just love art in general. And this is a place where people come to create art. But mostly what I like about this business more than anything else is the thing that also fuels the negative side, which is the fact that on any given day, you could wake up one thing and go to bed something completely else. Your dream could happen in the span of one day. And it happens all the time. I've seen it happen on a small scale. I've had my moments as well. Obviously working for Spielberg was one of them. I could give you a list of them, but it can happen. Out here, it can happen. If you're working, you believe in it, and you put yourself in between opportunity and where it's going, it could happen. And I love that about it. And I think that's what Tarantino's kind of showing, is that madness that encumbers everything, and Also, he just shows the importance of, when you're the artist, the actor, you put so much of your self-worth in your performance, and it's easy to get lost in, I am not a person, I am what I do. And I see that a lot. And I've even fell into that trap. And Leo's character in this movie, as he's struggling to try to be a great actor, he falls into the trap of, I am not a person, I am my work. And however my work is viewed and however successful that is my measure as a human being. And that happens a lot out here. And it's the wrong way to view things, but it happens a lot out here. So overall, guys, I thought the film was really good. Out of the 9 films that he's made, I mean, it wasn't my favorite all-time film of his. It wasn't better than Pulp Fiction. I don't think that it was better than Inglourious Bastards, but probably right after that. I think it was probably around his 3rd, 4th best film. I think you guys will love it. If you haven't seen it, even knowing the little pieces that I've dripped out here, go check it out. I think you guys will totally dig it. It was a great movie. And I'll do movie reviews every now and then for you guys. But really, it's just about when I see something that I think is really cool and you should check it out. Or if I see something I absolutely hate and I think it's ridiculous, I'll tell you about that too. I don't want this to become a movie review site per se, but I think doing, 1 or 2 movie reviews every 70 podcast episodes is okay, right? So anyways, from me to you, go check it out. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino. Very good film that I think actually touches on a lot of accuracy when it comes to Hollywood. If you really want to see kind of what it's like on the inside, this is a lot closer than most people would probably want to admit. Having said that, guys, once again, before we wrap it up here, quick reminder, click the link in the description box below to check out our October special bundle package deals. Again, I think there's something there you'll all love. Thank you guys so much for listening to episode number 78. I will be back tomorrow with more. All the best.